The Washington Redskins won the NFC East in 2015, but I'm not too convinced they're going to be able to win it again. I'll tell you why coming up. You're watching the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment. Hello and welcome to the MJ Take here on the Sports Fan Entertainment YouTube channel. It is time for the 32 teams in 32 days 2016 NFL season previews I'll be making from July 25th to August 25th, and the Washington Redskins have the privilege of going first in this series. I forgot to mention yesterday, the reason why the Redskins are going first and the reason why the video schedule is what it is because when I made draft recaps for each and every team, those videos got a certain amount of views. And if you got the most views, you got to go first, and that's the Redskins. So the schedule is in the order of the views from my draft recap video. So I had some Lions fans commenting on my video saying, why are we going last? Well, you're going last because you didn't watch enough. You watched the least out of all the teams in the NFL. You guys watched the least. You guys go last. Get over it. But today, let's talk about the Redskins 2016 NFL season. Now, you heard the intro. I'm sure your blood's boiling. You're like, man, how could you say that? Oh, I'm sick of people picking us to lose the NFC East. We're the best team in the NFC East. We're going to win it again. Now, of those three statements you just made, I agree with one of them. I truly believe that the Washington Redskins have the best team in the NFC East. I believe this. I believe if all things were equal, you guys would win the NFC East again. But unfortunately, all things are not equal. Your schedule is tough. Man, it is a tough schedule. It's at least a top three tough schedule in the NFL for this upcoming season, and it is preventing me from putting you guys over that bar saying, yes, you will win the NFC East again, you will make the playoffs again. But I'll tell you this, in terms of the future and in terms of years to come, you're set up for success. I just think this is going to be just a little bit of a step down before a big jump up. I see a lot of you guys saying 10-6, 11-5, 12-4. If you just look at the roster, I can buy into that conversation. But the schedule is too tough. But anyway, before we get into all of that, we're going to get into their team. We're going to get into their strengths, their weaknesses, look by position, look at the schedule, and I'm going to give you a best case scenario and a worst case scenario, and I'll give you my official win-loss prediction for this football team. So with that said, let's start with the biggest strength on the football team to me, and that is not really a position, but you'll know what I'm talking about. Pass catchers. The pass catchers on the Washington Redskins team is definitely the strength of this football team. Now, that includes the wide receivers and Jordan Reed, because that's what we're talking about here. I could say the tight ends, but we're not talking about the Derek Carrier. No, we're talking about Jordan Reed, who really ascended into the elite status of tight ends in the NFL last season. Combine him with the other wide receivers, Deshaun Jackson, who really wasn't healthy last year, but when he was, made an impact. Pierre Garçon, who also struggled a little bit last year, but when he was healthy, when he was playing, made an impact. And you decide, hell, let's just draft a wide receiver in the first round by the name of Josh Doctson out of TCU, who is going to come into this league and not do much from the onset, but eventually become a number one wide receiver to me. I had him just below Laquan Treadwell when you looked at the 2016 NFL draft wide receivers. I think he has a lot of potential. And by the way, last year you drafted Jamison Crowder, and he's pretty good in his own right. We're talking 4 wide receivers there. Jamison Crowder, for example, would be the number 1 wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans, okay? He'd be the number freaking 1. So you have a really good third wide receiver there. And even Josh Doctson could be the number 1 wide receiver for the Tennessee Titans. So you're in good company. Kirk Cousins has plenty of weapons to throw to this season and in seasons to come. That is definitely the strength of this football team. And the next strength would be a weakness. Last year, it's become a strength, and it is opposite of the pass catcher's position. It is the cornerbacks. The cornerbacks of this football team is now looking like a really good strength. You signed Josh freaking Norman in free agency. Some would like to say he's the best cornerback in the NFL. I disagree. 1.5 years of playing the best, to me, doesn't mean you're the best. I think he's going to take a little bit of a step back. He's still going to be very good, but I think we'll all be able to see, okay, he's not the best. He's very good, but he's not the best. I think we'll see that this season. But anyway, Josh Norman on one side, Brashad Breeland out of Clemson a couple years ago, about 3 years ago now, but he's really come on. I thought he had a really good year last year as the Redskins' best corner, covering a lot of number one wide receivers, and now he gets to cover the number twos while Josh Norman handles the number ones to the best of his ability. We're going to see that Josh Norman versus Odell Beckham matchup. That will be fun to watch. We're going to see that a couple times this year, maybe even 3, who knows. And then you have your slot corner, which we don't know who's going to be there, but I'll tell you this, last year, and I can't even remember his name because he was such an anomaly to me. Let's look at his name again. It was Quentin Dunbar. That's who it was. Quentin Dunbar had a pretty good year last year, graded out pretty well on Pro Football Focus. You also drafted Kendall Fuller out of Virginia Tech in the 3rd round. I really liked that draft pick. So someone, I don't know who, but someone will solidify themselves as that number 3 corner. You also, I believe you have, Will Blackman, Greg Toller, who you signed from the Colts, who really did not grade out well last year at all, but he's been decent in years past. Someone, I don't know who, but someone will solidify themselves as that number 3 corner, and that position will be fine for you. Now, those are the 2 big strengths. Those are, when you look at from top to bottom, it's a strength. There are other good parts of this football team, parts where you say, okay, this is a good piece, like the offensive line. So you have your 2 good tackles. You have Trent Williams and you have Morgan Moses. Okay, that's good. You move in, as the closer in you get, the worse it gets. Okay, Brandon Scherff on the right side, pretty good. It can still develop, become really good. He was a rookie last year, sophomore this year. He can really improve. Left side, left guard's a little shaky right now, and Corey Lichtensteiger at center had his worst year of his career last year. So they need to probably fix some things up in the middle there, but the offensive line, it's pretty good. Quarterback, pretty good, right? We're going to see where Kirk Cousins goes. You guys can have faith in Kirk Cousins, and that's fine. The problem is your front office doesn't, okay? Your boy Jay Gruden, your boy Scott McCloughan, they don't. They didn't re-sign him. Is he on a long-term deal? I don't think so. So excuse me for not having much faith in Kirk Cousins when your favorite team's front office doesn't have much faith in Kirk Cousins. I mean, that's just a little bit of a problem for me, but I think he's pretty good, and I think he's good enough for now, and so do they. So we'll see where they can go with him. The defensive line, pretty good. Okay, so right now you have Chris Baker. I think he's your best defensive lineman. Thought he played really well last year against the run and pass rushing a little bit, and he's still pretty young, so can improve a little bit, get even better. You move Trent Murphy to the defensive end position. We'll see how that works out. To be honest, I'm not loving that. Yes, he's very good against the run, but putting on 20 more pounds, getting a little bit slower, I mean, I don't see how that's going to work out. I'm sorry, I'm not a big fan of that. Ricky Jean-Francois played better for you last year than I thought he ever would, to be honest with you. So, hey, he's still a pretty good player. Good for you. You signed Kendall Reyes from San Diego. He stinks. Trust me, he stinks. You lost Jason Hatcher, and this is key, because although he stinks against the run, and he's horrible against the run, very good pass rusher, very good interior pass rusher, when juxtaposed with Chris Baker, really adds a nice duo to your football team. He will be missed. And right now, nose tackle, it's not a big deal because nose tackle is only on the field probably 30 to 35% of the plays. Kedrick Golston isn't very good. So your defensive line is up and down. Linebackers, this is a weakness for me, but a very slight one, because we're talking about 2 positions, outside linebacker, left and right, which I think are good, and then the inside linebackers would stink. Let's start with the outside linebackers. You have currently Ryan Kerrigan, 9.5 sacks last season, 13.5 the year before that, so a little bit of dip in production, but we know what we're going to get for him, okay? We got 8.5, we got 8.5, we got 13.5, we got 9.5. He's consistent. We know what we're going to get from him. Good. Other side, Preston Smith, who I love. And this guy had 8 sacks last year as a rookie. I mean, guys, this guy's about to explode. I think he's going to get double-digit sacks. I think we're talking 11, 12 sacks. He's pretty good against the run as well. I think he's really going to be that replacement to Brian Orakpo. Maybe even better than Brian Orakpo ever was for you guys. Really, really good player there. Inside linebackers stink. Okay, Tom Compton, Mason Foster, you drafted Sua Cravens, who I don't love at inside linebacker, to be honest. I think he's a better fit at strong safety, but, whatever. Right now, that's a big question mark. Don't know who's starting there. Perry Riley, who knows? But whoever is there, unless if it's Sua Cravens, I'm going to write it off. If it's Sua Cravens, I'll be interested. Oh, and you also drafted Steven Daniels, although I believe that was in the 5th, 6th, or 7th round, so not much to expect from that position right now. And also the secondary, the safeties specifically, a little bit of a question mark. Okay, Deangelo Hall moved to free safety. He looks pretty good in week 15, 16, 17 in the playoffs. He looked pretty good. Before that, looked a little shaky. We'll see how we can do. He's getting a little bit old. Free safety position, not a big deal to be old there, but, a little bit of a deal to me. And then you signed David Bruton from the Denver Broncos, and boy, is he a Bruton. I mean, this guy is a brute. He's a big supplier in the run game. Pass game, coverage can struggle a little bit. So I think Deangelo Hall, who's he's going to be pretty good coverage-wise. So I think with him and Bruton, I think that will actually end up being a pretty good combo. Did we talk about every position? No, we didn't. We didn't talk about the worst position, and that is the running back position. Look, you guys could be a fan of Matt Jones, as Louis T from YouTube says, Matt Jones! You guys could be a fan of him. I'm not. To be honest, I like his receiving ability. I think he had, a 50-yard receiving touchdown. It has some nice catches here and there. But, this is one of the worst starting running backs in the NFL. He's one of the worst. And, you have to find an improvement. You have Pierre Thomas, you drafted Keith Marshall. None of these guys are going to pan out. So, Matt Jones may end up having 800, 900 yards, but look, there's 10 running backs. Hell, maybe you can say 12. Running backs coming out in the 2017 NFL draft. You draft one, okay? You draft one. So with that said, let's get into why I don't have the Redskins making the playoffs. Because if you heard me just talk about the roster, I really like the roster. But here's the problem. We're not going to go game by game, but I'll tell you this. All right, we'll talk about every game, but I like to structure it in this way, okay? So the road games, ouch! Oh my God. Let's talk about the road games. And I would like to have faith in you guys to beat the Giants and the Cowboys. Guys, let's face it, you won't. Okay? You won't. When did you do it? You haven't done it. When was the last time you swept the Cowboys and the Giants? Maybe you swept them in 2012, but even last year you didn't do it. When the Cowboys went 4-12, you didn't do it. So you're not going to do it. So you have at the Giants, at the Ravens, at the Lions, at the Bengals, at the Cowboys, at the Cardinals, at the Eagles, and at the Bears. Of those 8 road games that I just said, I can literally see you guys only winning 2 of them. And that is at Detroit and that is at Philadelphia. If you happen to win in New York and you happen to win in Dallas, you will lose to New York or to Dallas in Washington. That's the way it works in this division. You will not be better than 4-2 in this division. That's the best you can be. You'll probably end up still being 3-3, to be honest. Guys, let's be honest. That's just the way the NFC East works. You lose to the Cowboys, you lose to the Cowboys, or to the Giants. They lose to you. That's what happens. It's the NFC East. You guys love trading these division wins. When was the last time anyone went 5-1 or 6-0 in the division? It's not going to happen. Okay, it's not going to happen. So you have those 8 road games, and then maybe you can beat Baltimore. But if you beat Baltimore, then I'm not sure you'd beat Detroit. So from those 8 road games, man, I see 2-6. I think it's really, 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 really difficult. Maybe at best, wait, what did I just say? Yeah, 2-6. Maybe at best you can go 3-5. Okay, so that's a possibility. Okay, fine. Then we have the home games. Okay, so you host Pittsburgh, you host the Cowboys, you host the Browns, you host the Eagles, you host the Vikings, you host the Packers, you host the Panthers, and you host the Giants. So let's assume you lose at Dallas and at New York. Okay, let's just assume that. Just for a second, let's assume. So now you have to host these potential Super Bowl champions. I mean, these teams can win the Super Bowl. I'm talking the Packers, the Panthers, the Steelers, and the Vikings. 1, 2, 3, 4. All of those teams can win the Super Bowl. If any of those teams won the Super Bowl this year, I wouldn't be surprised. I'd be a little surprised if the Vikings won it, just a little bit, but not too much. 4 Super Bowl potential candidates. Contenders, definitely contenders you have to face at home. Okay, of those 4, I think you guys could go, let's say 2-2, okay? And that's a stretch, guys. I mean, that is a pretty big stretch. I mean, you're facing the Steelers week 1. You could beat them. I mean, you lost to the Packers in the playoffs too. So let's not forget about that. So I mean, guys, it's a tough schedule. And then of the other games I haven't mentioned thus far, so you host the Cowboys and the Giants. So let's assume you beat them because we assume that you lost to them on the road. Then you host the Eagles. Hopefully you can take care of business. And then you host the Browns. You're gonna beat the Browns. So okay, you can beat the Browns. You can beat. Oh man, this is a tough schedule. And also of the road games, I forgot to mention, at the Bengals, man, that's tough. That's another Super Bowl contender. What the hell was I talking? That's 5. That's 5 Super Bowl contenders that you guys have to face this year. And then the Cardinals. See, I keep going through this schedule and I keep finding more stuff. This schedule is littered. It's full of crap. Okay, here's the point. Okay, so when you look through the schedule, this is what I see. Best case scenario, you win tough games. I mean, you beat the Steelers. You beat Baltimore in Baltimore. You beat Detroit in Detroit. You beat the Vikings. You beat the Panthers. You go to Chicago, and that's going to be tough because Chicago is going to be contending for a playoff spot. And you beat them, and then you beat the Cowboys, the Giants, the Browns, and the Eagles, and you go 10-6. Okay, you go 10-6, and you're happy with that, and you win the NFC East again, and you go to the playoffs, and you survive the tough schedule. Congratulations. Worst case scenario, you lose to some of these tough teams. You lose to the Steelers. You lose to the Giants and Cowboys. That's just what's going to happen. You lose to at Ravens. You lose at Cincinnati. You lose to the Vikings, the Packers, at Arizona versus Carolina, and at Chicago. Did I just count 9 losses? If I didn't, I meant to, and you go 7-9. Very distinct possibility, guys. I mean, very, 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 very possible, especially if Kirk Cousins ends up being less of a player than we thought he was. And that is also very possible. But here's my official prediction. So that was best case scenario. That was worst case scenario. I'm leaning towards the worst case scenario. I have you guys going 8-8 this season, and you'll be damn fine of it because you'll look back and you'll say, man, we had a tough schedule. Next year, you won't have to face the AFC North and things, or the NFC North for that matter, and things will be much easier for you. I think you'll be back to the playoffs next season. I know it's early, but assuming you can get your quarterback position figured out and everything, yeah, this roster is good, and it's a young roster, so there's still a lot of developing to be done. I mean, we're talking key players: Preston Smith, Brandon Scherff, Josh Doxson, Jamison Crowder, young growing players. I mean, you guys are fine in the future, but for now, it's a little bit of a step back. Redskins go 8-8 and unfortunately miss the playoffs and lose the NFC East. So what were your thoughts on this video? What do you think about the Redskins' chances in 2016? If you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And until next time, this has been the MJ Take on Sports Fan Entertainment, and I'm out. Peace.